This is a video in a series about creating background animations in After Effects. We're going to use After Effects' built-in plugins and effects to create this particle world system. Let's create a new document or a new project and create a composition to work in. HDTV 1920 by 1080, 10 seconds long, whatever kind of background color you would like. I'm going to create a vignette to place over the top of my my particle system, and I'll do that first. I'm going to create a new solid color, and I'm going to use a mask to create my vignette this time. So I'm putting a mask directly onto that solid color there, and I'll twirl down the mask properties there. I'm going to feather that so that it's quite kind of fluffy, and I'm going to invert it. And then I'm going to change that compositions settings so that we've got a kind of a dark blue in the corners. So something like that. Okay, that's looking good. Now I'm going to, maybe I'll call this gradient or something. Going to add a new layer, new solid layer, and we'll call this one dust. Alright, so this is the layer that we're going to add our particle world effect to. So let's have a look in our effects and presets for our particles, and we've got a few different particle generators that we can choose from. They're all under simulation, so let's have a look under the effects and simulation. We've got particle systems, particle world, and particle playground. In this instance, I'm going to use particle world. And that throws up some interesting interface elements here. We've got a ground plane grid, a horizon line, and some other icon up there that I don't really know what it is for. If I scroll through the timeline there, you can see that I've got this kind of explosion of kind of fireworks. And they're the particles being generated, and they're generating from this origin here. What we want to do is kind of manipulate the properties for our particle system so that they're, I don't know, a bit more customized. We're going to move towards some nice soft, floaty little particles that are moving through the air like they're kind of dust. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work on this particle system to get it move it in that direction. So let's have a quick look at our particle world properties here, and I'm going to go down to start with to the particle pull down menu, and we'll manipulate the particle to start with. Instead of a line particle type, I'm going to choose a faded sphere, and that creates kind of a nicer looking particle in my opinion. Obviously we want to change the color of those particles to fit in with our color scheme, so I'm going to change the yellow particles, the birth color, to a kind of bluey grey. And we don't need to really change the death color. I will anyway. The death color represents the outer. I'll show you what the death color looks like. If I change it from faded sphere to shaded sphere, you can see that I've got those two kind of colors in our vignette there. I'm going to go to faded sphere so they're kind of a bit softer. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller as well, so I'm going to change the birth size, so that's when the particles come into the world at that origin, they're going to be an increment of 1, and I'm going to keep them at 1 as they disappear. So now you can see we've got these kind of soft little balls. generating from that origin and kind of falling to the ground. What should I move on to next? I think I want to have a look at the longevity, I think. So we'll pull that back up. Actually, the birth rate, I think I'll drop down to 2. So I think that'll allow or cause less particles to be generated right at the start. So that's good. And then we'll look at the longevity. I want to have them hang around a bit longer, so I'm going to add 5 seconds in for longevity, and you can see now that they kind of stay around before they fall a bit longer. The producer itself is the kind of where they're born, and at the moment it's kind of quite a very small little space. I'm going to open that up. Oops. And open, you can see when I open that up there that this kind of place where the particles is born kind of grows. I can drag it or I can do it numerically. See, there's a couple of kind of toggle points. If I pull this right out like so, you can see that they're kind of, rather than coming from a single point of origin, they kind of come from a much bigger kind of space, which is what we want. Let's have a look at the physics property here, and I reckon it's the gravity that's really going to change how things look here. So instead of these particles dropping to the floor, I want them to kind of float around in space like they're dust particles. So I'm going to make it a negative value for our gravity. So now you can see that they don't drop to the floor, they kind of just move around in a bunch of different directions. The other thing that I want to do at this stage maybe is I don't want the particles to grow from that center point in my animation. I want them to be on screen the whole time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my solid layer, kind of just shuffle it along there and then drag out a little bit more kind of time on that layer. So now the particles are kind of always on screen, but moving. And the last thing I'm going to do is just adjust the velocity a bit down to a smaller number, maybe 0.05. And that's kind of slowed things down a lot. But I might just create a little bit more origin on the producer so that we've got a bit more of a spread out origin there. I think that's looking pretty good. Might just change the origin so that those guys are floating up a little bit from the ground a little bit more. Okay, so there we go. We've got another background animation there produced with the built-in effects in After Effects. In this case, we're using the Particle World particle generator. As you can see, plenty of options in the Particle World particle generator for improvisation and experimentation.